Mr Deputy President. What does it take to give a child the best start in life? It is a question that is reflected upon daily by parents, teachers, early childhood educators and politicians, and one that we must continue to ask ourselves as we look at implementing the historic reforms to early learning and the childhood sector. As everyone in this chamber would agree, high-quality education is a critical element in providing children with the very best start in life. Education is not only the key to overcoming structural inequality and disadvantage, it is a crucial part of securing Australia's long-term economic growth. However, the benefits of education cannot be realised without investment in early years education. It has been well established that children do their most important learning in their first 5 years. Indeed, evidence indicates that 90% of brain development occurs in these critical early years. A child's experience in the first 5 years sets a course for the rest of their life, including their long-term educational outcomes. With this in mind, I wish to again place on record my support for the United Voice Big Steps campaign. And Senator Feeney's in the chamber with me, and of course he would support the Big Steps campaign as well. And also my support for the dedicated ECEC workforce and provide an update on their campaign activities. The United Voice Big Steps campaign is a grassroots sector-wide campaign to secure professional wages in the early childhood education and care sector. Since 2007, we've seen sustained growth in the number of children and families using early childhood education and care services. On any given day in Australia, up to 1 million children attend long-day care services across the country, and in my home state of Tasmania, 17,000 families use long-day care services. Despite the increase in participation rates for children in formal care, the paying conditions of the some 60,000 people employed in early childhood education and care remains unacceptable. Currently, an early childhood educator earns just over $18 per hour. It's a tragic reality that our tireless early childhood educators who play such an important role in shaping the future of our young people and can actually earn more cleaning tables in a fast food restaurant or stacking shelves in a supermarket than they do as early childhood educators, Mr Deputy President. In the face of the economic hardship, large numbers of people working in the early childhood education and care sector have been forced to leave in search of higher-paying work. Over 180 educators leave the early childhood education and care sector each week due to low wages and poor conditions. The United Voice campaign is focused on addressing the structural problems within the funding system for the early childhood education and care sector. The campaign is calling on the government to provide $1.4 billion in recurrent funding to the sector, which would secure a professional wage for educators. The government has committed to widespread reforms to the early childhood education and care sector. The reform agenda is significant, and the measures include the development of a national curriculum, plus a new national quality framework bringing together state and territory-based licensing and quality systems into one nationally consistent system. As part of the government's commitment to building a high-quality, accessible and affordable early learning and care system in Australia, the government will invest a record $22.3 billion over the next 4 years in the early childhood education and care sector. The National Quality Framework commenced progressive implementation on the 1st of January of this year. The National Quality Framework will improve the child-to-staff ratios, set new staff qualification requirements, introduce new quality rating system and establish a new national oversight body. It also incorporates the National Quality Standard to ensure high quality and consistent early childhood education and care across Australia. The government has also introduced changes to make childcare more affordable and more accessible to families. The government has increased the rebate to 50% and the cap to $7,500 per child per year. We know that these reforms are not only critical because they make high-quality and affordable childcare a reality for low to middle-income families. Importantly, they also assist in raising the workforce participation rate of women, women's workforce participation is sensitive to a range of factors, including affordability and quality of care. Notwithstanding the significant progress made by the government in achieving these historic reforms within the early childhood education and care sector, there is still more work to be done. The package of reforms announced by the Council of Australian Governments sets a bold vision for early childhood education and care in Australia. To achieve the government's goal, it is crucial that the sector is served by a stable, qualified and professional workforce, and to achieve this we need to support the sector in retaining, recruiting and training of staff. And to do this, we must support professional wages. That is why I've given my support as an ECEC champion, as many of my colleagues have, to the United Voice Big Steps campaign, because investing in the early education sector is so vitally important. On the 27th of September this year, I visited Tiny Tacker's ECEC Centre, which is in Glenorchy, which is a suburb of Denison in Tasmania, along with my colleague Senator Lisa Singh and Jane Austen, the Labor candidate for Denison. Tiny Tackers is owned and operated by a young woman named Erica and is a thriving and vibrant local centre. As part of our visit to Tiny Tackers, the Big Steps campaign presented us with their 2013 budget submission stating the case for professional wages, and the campaign also premiered their newly launched television commercial. On November the 17th, it was earmarked for the National Big Steps Community Action Day, but in the lead up to the rally, I also took up the challenge of living on an educator's wage of $18 an hour. I was partnered with Alicia, who is a ECEC worker and who presented me with a Big Steps cheque for $622.88, which represented my pay for the week. Alicia also went through her own budget practices and the tough decisions she makes week in and week out to make ends meet. The exercise enables people to fully understand the difficulties faced, and it very much focused me on the tough budget decisions that need to be made. And I thank Alicia for sharing her time and her personal story with me. The National Big Steps Community Action Day was a day for families, the sector and the wider community to celebrate and support the fantastic work of early childhood educators, and to support Big Steps budget call to the Prime Minister, Julia Gillard, and the Treasurer, Mr Swan, for a $1.4 billion budget allocation for professional wages. Rallies were held across Australia in every capital city. At the Hobart rally, around 900 people participated in the Big Steps Action Day. I had the opportunity to speak at the rally in Hobart, and I was joined by my colleague Senator Lisa Singh and the Labor candidate for Denison, Jane Austen. In all, Mr Deputy President, over 12,000 people, including families, ECE centres, staff, supporters, members of the wider community, turned out to show their support for the campaign for professional wages. As my contribution draws to a close, I would like to acknowledge the tireless work of the United Voice, and particularly the Tasmanian State Secretary, Helen Gibbons, and the Tasmanian Campaign Coordinator for Big Steps campaign, Jeanette Armstrong. The Big Steps campaign has enabled me to meet with many early childhood educators and carers, mostly women, who have shared with me both their genuine passion for the work they do and the difficulties they face making ends meet. So I want to acknowledge all these people and their passion and their commitment to the campaign. In the course of the debate on lifting wages for our early childhood educators and carers, we must never forget that the undervaluing of educators reflects the broader inequality which women continue to experience in the workplace today. The early childhood and care sector continues to be a largely female-dominated sector, and it is a sad reality that early childhood educators remain socially undervalued and underpaid. The Big Steps campaign is so much more than a campaign about better wages. It's a campaign about respect for the profession, it's about maintaining quality, and it's about the continuation of our education for our children. And I would like, once again, Mr Deputy President, to thank those involved in the National Day, particularly particularly Rebecca Hayes, who emceed the event, and of course United Voice for organising the rally.